All information in this program is known to be accurate at the time of recording. Any commentary by the host is for discussion purposes only. Anyone labeled a person of interest by the host or family has not been charged with a crime. All suspects charged with crimes related or unrelated to a case covered are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Opinions and views expressed by the host do not represent views of the families or sponsors of this program.
Seems like we're right back at it again. Another night fighting a losing battle that will never win. Caught up in the wind when it calls my name on a broken wheel. Is it ever gonna turn around?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Grim Truth Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Stone. Before we get into today's video, if you have not watched our videos or taken a look at the channel, I promote missing persons cases. I talk about cases that aren't covered by the mainstream media, the legacy media, local media, and sometimes these cases don't get investigated by local law enforcement. So we try to give a voice to the families in the hopes that you understand the struggles that they go through, and also share the information in hopes that maybe you out there can be a linchpin in getting answers that these families need that bring their loved one home. You can be a voice for the voiceless. So if you like that, subscribe to the Grim Truth Podcast YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode of the Grim Truth Podcast or any other content related to the missing. Make sure you leave us a like, comment down below, and share these videos. Another way that you can help the podcast, if you want to, up to you, you can do two things. Of course, helping the podcast by joining and subscribing is wonderful. The other thing you can do is become a Grim Guardian by joining, and what it does is it's $4.99 a month. You get early access to new videos, member shout-outs, priority replies to comments, and members-only live streams, which, by the way, I will be hosting a live stream here this week or next week, and that's for everybody. We're going to talk about upcoming cases, and we're going to talk about the aftermath of this one. And you can do that. The other thing you can do is down here, there's a super thanks. And basically what this does is if you liked the content and you want to help the channel, again, no obligation, you can go here and you can give us $2, $5, $10, whatever you can afford. And that goes to help pay for production costs, podcasts, and everything else. Thank you so very much. It would be appreciated. But if you can't do that, just subscribe, and that'll be a great help. Also, if you go down to our Facebook page, become a member of the Facebook page, where all the podcasts are linked up here at the pinned comments. We have the recent podcast we did yesterday, part 1. We also have our next major topic is the petition to help Sandy get the answers that she needs, change.org. We already have 100 signatures, and I just put this up last night. Please make sure you go on here and sign this petition so that we can help not only bring attention to Chris's case, but make sure that real investigators can start working on this, because the petition basically states that we're trying to get the Texas Department of Public Safety, i.e. the Texas Rangers, to call in the FBI and their missing persons task force to help with Chris's case. So please, 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 if you haven't done so already, sign this petition, share this petition. If we can get it up there, and we can, I'll be paying some money to get it to go national, and we can get more signatures. We really need about 1,000 signatures to make this thing go real viral. So please sign, share the hell out of it so we can help Sandy get the answers that she needs. Now, episode 44, part 2, very special guest today. I think that a lot of people seem to think a certain way. Not a lot. There's a small minority of individuals that, whether they they think they're right, or they think they have a monopoly on Chris, or they think that, we don't know what we're talking about. Well, there's one person who knows exactly what they're talking about, and that's Sandy Sanders. I had the pleasure to speak to this woman and finally get her take on all the shenanigans and the theories and the things going on we talked everything from the vigil to what's going on in Chris's case, what's keeping it down, and boy, is it juicy. If you want the truth, listen to this in its entirety, because I'm going to tell you what, it is literally one of the best interviews I think we have ever had on the podcast, and it is truth. It's not only truth, it's a tactical nuclear truth bomb, and I think you need to hear it. So if you need to take a break, take a break. If you need to listen to some of it, stop in the middle, but please do yourself a favor, especially if you're somebody that knows Chris or knew Chris and you consider him a brother or a sister or a friend and not one of those fake ones. Listen to this entire interview, because Sandy Sanders is a phenomenal individual, a very, very strong woman, and she tells it like it is. No apologies. This is unedited, uncut, unfiltered, straight, coming at you, the truth of Sandy Sanders. And it's been an honor to work with her. So without further ado, here she is, the real next of kin, Sandy Sanders. So we're talking with Sandy Sanders, the mother of Chris Sanders, who's been missing 6 years as of last Sunday at the time of the recording. Sandy, I'm glad that we're getting to talk on the podcast about Chris's case. We haven't had you on since the second episode I did, so I can't imagine how tough it's been for you. I know that we talk personally off the record about things. What's been the hardest 6 years? What's been the hardest thing for you about Chris's case?
The not knowing why law enforcement has to be such lazy asses. Why do you have to sit behind your desk and wait for someone to personally hand you a tip before you get up and go look for my son? All the rumor mill. I know this, so we check it out, and it's straight up bullshit. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
People getting involved in wanting their 15 minutes of fame, or people getting involved in keeping information that should be handed over to me, the mother, or our podcast guy, Stevestone. We're the only two that should be getting that information, and it's up to us to check it out. I'm sick and tired of the lies. I'm sick and tired of the he said, she said. I'm tired of the drama. It's like everybody has tried to keep us from bringing Chris home, including his wife.
You
who
said
has done absolutely freaking nothing.
Right, and that's a good segue, because you brought a couple of things up that people have said recently, and I want to ask you about them. Now, it was brought up on Sunday. Again, that was, and that's not an anniversary. It's the worst day I could imagine in your life and in his children's lives.
Yeah.
It's a 6th year of him being missing, and we were in one of the posts on Sunday. It was mentioned that Angela Sanders is the next of kin, and when we look at cases and when people are investigating
suspicious circumstances, and I know you feel this way, and I feel this way. Chris's disappearance is a suspicious circumstances. They're gonna look at the closest people around your son, and the first place you're gonna look is Angela, and for a bunch of other reasons. Do you think that that calling her next of kin, or do you think that's a fair assessment in your opinion?
No, I don't. I don't know how many times it came out of Chris's mouth that as soon as Ashlyn got out of high school, she could consider herself a divorced bitch because she was not a psychotic bitch. His words. And I was told too that when or if we find Chris's remains, since she's the wife, she will get the remains and she'll have them cremated and spread before I ever get any notification of it. What kind of sorry bitch is that? I mean, I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry for my mouth, but...
Well, you have every right to feel the way you feel. And I want to ask you this. Let's go back. Let's say... Now, we all know that she has done absolutely nothing, and we can say that objectively because we have the proof. Other than a post that she put out on August the 21st, 2017, about Chris being missing, and this was 9 days. This post was 9 days after Chris went missing, and she posted about picking up the RV. Let's say that she was helping, and she was doing things. Would you prevent her from helping look for Chris if that's what she was actually doing?
No. I mean, if she was doing something besides selling everything he had and giving away everything he had, sleeping with his brothers, no, I would not. If she was trying to help, I'd welcome her with open arms, but she's doing nothing, Steve. You know that. I know that. Most of the listeners know that.
And I was asking the question because her camp, including her, and she has said it, she said it to me, that she hasn't been able to do anything because of you. You have prevented it. But I think it's safe to say that that's not the case. I mean, at the end of the day, what is the main goal of all this? The main goal is to find your son. And if she wanted to help, she could do that. But instead, we're seeing the complete opposite.
Yeah, run and hide and tuck your tail. Let everybody else do the work, and you take credit for it. No, it doesn't work that way.
Now, this is going to sound sarcastic, and I don't mean to be ill will, but Chris didn't have any superpowers, right? Chris wasn't clairvoyant, and he wasn't a psychic, correct?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay, so here's a question that I still have a hard time with, and there are people that have made claims that Angela had to do what Angela had to do. 9 days. Well, let's remind everybody that it was how many days did go by before you found out Chris was missing?
Supposedly Chris went missing at 9 o'clock Sunday, August the 13th, 2017. She finally took it upon herself to call me at 10:30 on the 16th. What's that, 3.5 days later?
Yes, ma'am.
And she still hadn't filed a missing persons report. She requested the welfare check. What's that going to do? But the day I filed, and I have the paperwork to prove I filed it, is the day that her and her sister go get the RV in the the Tahoe.
And that was...
What's he coming back to?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, Sandy. So, but we're that would be 9 days into his disappearance. And the reason why I asked if Chris was psychic or had any superpowers was we have his phone records, and we noticed that there was nobody answering his phone. So if Chris went on a walkabout, because that was the original big theory, that Chris went on this walkabout. And so if Chris was going to come back to Monahan's, how would he know that he didn't have an RV
or a Tahoe to go back to? How would he know that?
Well, he wouldn't. And I mean, actually, it was 3 days after he went missing. It wasn't 9.
Okay.
But I mean, no, he wouldn't know. I mean.
And the other. Go ahead.
I lost where I was going. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So, and the other thing is, if I mean, Chris we would assume, because Chris wasn't a dummy, Chris would have gone back to where he left from, which was the RV park in Monahans. And so, and if I'm not mistaken, and I've talked to, well, we can't talk to trendsetters because they just forget Chris even worked there. Nobody will get back to us. We've tried, and you know that. But I was told by multiple people, including the foreman out there, that Chris was paid up until the end of August. So
on the RV park?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes. So
but she went and got it on the 18th. She goes get it on the 18th. Why?
Right. So she had time. She could have left it there.
Yeah, and any normal thinking person would have done the same thing, hoping maybe he did go for a walk and he's coming back. But not this heifer. No, let me go get this shit and start selling it.
Yeah, and that was, so we know that the Tahoe was sold, the RV, those things, and then we've also learned that other things of Chris's have gone missing, or sold rather. What now? Again, I'm not being a smart aleck here, but I mean, why would you do that? Like, I'm sure people are hard on. I mean, everybody's hard up for money, and that is, you know, and Chris was I think at the time he was the only breadwinner. I could be wrong.
Yeah. No, you're correct.
And Chris's money was going to her 2 sons. We've confirmed that. So, and I get so why would you sell your husband's things if he's just missing?
Because she knows he's not just missing.
Right.
I believe that in every fiber in my body.
And just so people know that we're not all piling on, because there's a group of individuals that think we're piling on. I know. If it's a slim, if there is a minute chance that there are other people at play, if somebody else is responsible for your son's disappearance, then that's fine. They need to go to jail, and that's the end of it. But we're going off what we're being told and the actions of Angela. Now I was told today that they weren't normal, you know, and they're not necessarily right, but that should be okay because people deal with things differently.
Okay.
I mean, you wouldn't sell your husband's things, right?
No.
My wife gets mad at me a lot, and even if I was missing, I don't think she'd sell my things.
Well, I mean, I have a few things of Chris's, and I cherish them. There's not enough money in the world for someone to come and buy this stuff for me. But old girl here sells it as quick as it'll make your head spin. I mean, she stayed in the trailer for, I don't know, 2.5 years, never paid rent because everybody felt so sorry for her. So, I mean, she was selling everything. Where was the money going? I'm not going to say where I think it was going, but you know what I think.
Yes. And I want to get back to the weeks after Chris's disappearance, and remind everybody that now we know that you put up some flyers, and people were putting up flyers up and around looking for Chris. Was Angela putting up flyers that you are aware of?
Angela was taking down flyers. she was caught on camera in Mount Pleasant and Naples taking down flyers and putting up flyers for a motorcycle run. Makes a whole lot of sense to me. Grieving widow that she is. Yeah, she makes a lot of sense.
What was the bike run for? Was this a charity run for Chris, or was this something different?
It was one of her things, and I do believe Karen told me the money that they did a love offering for her when they found out her husband was missing. The love offering went to remodel her house. I mean, really? That could have gone a long way in trying to find your husband. I'm just going to say it, that's the worst forking mistake he ever made in his life, on top of doing the drugs. I mean, which he was recovering from. He had 8 years clean.
Yeah, he battled addiction. He was fighting that. He was working his ass off, trying to take care of his kids, who he got custody of, and
which is unusual in Texas.
Right, and he was doing, everything he could to take care of Ashlyn and Colby and work, and things seemed to be, from all intents and purposes, from everything that that we've discussed and talked about, that it wasn't a pretty, their marriage was anything but happy. She says they were having a happy marriage. Yes, they did fight a little bit, but everybody else said it was totally not the case.
They fought every day. He could come to my house after getting a haircut, and she's calling. I honestly think she had a tracker on his phone. He would be here 5 minutes, and she was calling. They fought, Steve. They fought every day. You can ask some of his friends, his true friends.
Yeah, and I've talked to some of them. Yeah, and they.
Oh, I know.
And they all said that he would literally leave and try to go somewhere. She'd track him on Facebook or something, and she'd be calling up. I know I've talked to Thomas York about that. I've talked to several people that have said the same thing. One of the big issues that happened last year was, and I'm not going to go into details, but you're aware, we got a tip about something, and we felt that we needed to keep it hush-hush because people were getting too close to Angela, and we wanted to protect the investigation, because if we found anything, we wanted to make sure that we were protecting evidence and all that. And can you just tell everybody your feelings about that, and why it was so important for us to, because everybody seems to think that me being the podcaster, and we've gotten close personally because of this, but can you just talk to people about that decision that was made, about keeping the information close, and when what we were trying to accomplish?
Well, we got the tip that Chris's body may be buried somewhere, and we got a team together and went and searched and had some good hits. We kept it close to the chest because the less people that knew about it, the better position we were to get law enforcement involved. And a lot of people got butthurt over it. They just stay that way. But I know who has my back and who doesn't. So the ones that needed to know are the ones that knew. And still, to this day, there are a lot of people that don't know the whole situation. There are a lot of people that don't need to know.
Right, and but what I wanted to share with the listeners is that this decision that was made by the group, not just by one person. Me personally, I always, and you know this, but I'm not afraid to tell everybody, I will always bow to you when it comes to certain things, because Chris is your son. And
Right.
But this decision wasn't personal. This was just strictly about Chris. And
Yes.
it had nothing to do with anybody.
Right.
In the 6 years that Chris has been missing, and the various people that have helped on the case, have people withheld information from you? And if they did, do you know why?
I'll name one, and she knows who she is. Karen Knuckles. I'll give credit where credit's due. Karen did a lot in the beginning to help. But when you call me and tell me I have information on Chris's case, but I'm not going to give it to you because I don't want it to get out, that crossed the line.
And that was
I mean,
that was Karen telling you that, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Karen put out that it was all because of this prayer vigil she had in Lone Star that I totally disagreed with. It had nothing to do with the prayer vigil. You know something about my son? By God, I'm the mother, and you need to tell me. So that's where Karen and I's issues came in. That's where I cut the ties with Karen. And she can like it or not. I don't give two flying flips. As far as I'm concerned, Karen Knuckles and her little group, I'm sorry about the one she's pulled in because she's going to do the same thing to them, but I want them to have nothing, no information on my son's case. Whatever she digs up, and
yeah, Karen. Yeah, and I want to emphasize this because everybody thinks this is just a pissing contest, and it's not.
it's not.
Karen did a lot of things, and she went. I think she went as far as she could with the case, but I think unfortunately there was a combination of the stuff that we were working on together collectively, and then there was this feeling that everybody got that she was getting too close to Angela, and it's unfortunate that we have to point out to people in any suspicious person's, missing person's case, a homicide, all these law enforcement always looks at the closest people, and no one, I just want to reiterate, no one has sat down in a room with detectives and had a legit interview about Chris's disappearance. The only time that Angela sat down and talked with anybody was about him being missing, but no interviews about the circumstances of him going missing. Just want to point that out there. But
yeah, and the fact that the ranger has sent her several requests to fill out information that might lead to helping him find Chris, she's yet to fill those papers out. Matter of fact, I was going over the Monahan's Police Department papers I got way back. The public, public records?
Yeah, the public, it's the Public Information Act where everybody can, you can.
Public Information Act or something like that. Okay, there were two officers.
Freedom of Information Act. My apologies. Yeah, it was the report. You got it through Freedom of Information Act. That's the proper terminology. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was rereading that last night, and these two officers, at different times, so they had talked to her, and they gave her papers to fill out if Chris wasn't at work Monday morning, for her to fill these out and bring them back to them. She never brought anything back. I mean, that's in the official papers I got.
Now,
so looking for your husband? Yeah.
Now, I know he probably doesn't want to get dragged into it, but I mean, unfortunately, he has to. Ranger breeding with the Texas Rangers. I don't know. I don't know if it's if we can call it
he's physically working Chris's case, but he's been the one that you've spoken to, that I've spoken to, that other people have spoken. According to Angela, she has spoken to him. I guess he's de facto working on the case, but not a lot of movements happened. Angela has said that she spoke to a ranger, but it wasn't breeding. Do you know anything about that?
I know Ashlyn and I gave our DNA, and it got lost for 18 months. The ranger, his name is Greg Wilson, out of Mount Pleasant, used the wrong kit and never let us know that our DNA wasn't in the system. Anyway, Ashley and I redid our DNA, and he tried for a couple of weeks to get her to come in and talk to him. And she finally did, from what Karen told me. And the wife said she'd never been so intimidated in all her life. That's the only time I know she's been, and she had to go to his office because he had made several attempts to catch her at home.
Right, and she made a claim that she was, quote, and I'm quoting her, she was, quote, cleared of any wrongdoing. But to my knowledge, that interview wasn't really about, it wasn't an official interview as far as Chris disappearing. And to my knowledge, no one's been cleared of anything because no one's done anything.
And nobody's been brought in to be questioned. I mean, how many witnesses were at that party that night? And not party, but cookout.
Yeah, that cookout.
How many people saw him? How many people saw him walk away from his the Tahoe with the alarm going off and jump a fence? How many of those have been questioned? I mean,
by law enforcement, no one. I mean, I know that I've talked to everybody, and I know Karen spoke to some people in the very beginning, but law enforcement wise, no one has talked to anybody.
Right. And I talked to a reporter a couple of weeks ago, and she was contacting Quintana. He was out of town. He'd get back with her when he got back in town, which I haven't heard anything else back from her. But he also told her that or she told me she had contacted an officer out there. He was a new hire, had never heard Chris's name. What the hell is wrong with that?
And this is Monahan's. So everybody understands, this is Monahan's. This was the place Chris disappeared from while he was working for Trendsetters down there.
Yeah. Which Trendsetters is no longer there. They've moved south.
Right.
So.
Well, and also I think Trendsetters has done a piss poor job in Chris's case, because every time I have gone and asked about Chris and some other things about, I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want people to know what we're doing, but when we've asked about things, they Chris Sanders who, and we'll get back to you, and they never get back to you. And I've made a dozen calls to Trendsetters.
Same here, and I sent certified letters and never got a response.
I think the only person from Trendsetters,
from the owner.
Yeah, I even emailed her too. But the only person that worked at Trendsetters. Well, I've talked to several people that have worked for Trendsetters, but they don't work there presently.
Yeah.
But was the foreman, Harold, right, and Harold Wayne, who unfortunately just passed away recently, and Cody. Those are the only people that we've talked to, that we can talk to, because Trendsetters won't talk to us.
Right.
We're about to. I want to wrap this up here, but I have a couple more questions. And one of the other questions, and it leads back to somebody. I wasn't going to. I mean, this was not one of the questions I was going to ask you today, but it got brought up, so I'm going to ask. So we're talking about suspects, and and the different stories that you've been told over the 6 years that Chris has gone missing, and
it was brought up about the other people that were there at the, again, it wasn't a party, it was just they were hanging out, drinking beer, eating pizza, while Chris was on the phone yelling and screaming. According to Angela, he was not yelling and screaming at her. It was about his per diem. But it was implied that, you know, other people there could be responsible.
Yeah.
Who are they must be talking about, I would imagine they're talking about Harold. And I know for a fact Angela points the finger at Cody. So
yeah.
So what's your take on that?
I talked to Harold just a few days before he passed. Let me go back. Anytime I called Harold or went by my sister's house, if I had a question or needed him to do something, he jumped through hoops to get it done. He called me a couple days before he died and was still begging, what can I do, what can I do, what can I do? And he said he wants her exposed because she's the guilty party. I don't think Harold had anything to do with it. As far as Cody, I don't know if Cody won't talk to me, but his dad did say he thinks Cody didn't have anything to do with it. He thinks Cody may know something and has pushed it to his subconscious or whatever. I honestly can't tell you how I feel about Cody. I pray he doesn't have anything to do with this. I pray if he does, he would open up to me or you or law enforcement. I just want somebody to tell me something. I mean, this is 6 years of pure living hell. And I've got a whole lot more on my plate now, and you and my army, my tribe, know what's going on, and I mean, there are days it's hard to keep going. I just need someone to quit listening to this narcissistic bitch and grow a set and at least ease Ashlyn and Colby's mind. We need closure or we need answers.
So, let me ask you this: Would you be satisfied if even if you just got Chris home to lay him to rest? Would that be okay? Because I think what I'm getting at is, you know, we have a reward out. It's $10,000. I'm thinking about seeing if we can raise it, and we'll discuss that at some point. But at some point, you know, we just want, like you said, you want answers, you know, and even if somebody had the balls to stand up and say, "Hey, I know where he is," and you can get him home. I mean, would that
take me to him?
Right? Wouldn't that be?
Would that be closure enough? No. I want who's responsible. I want to be sitting in the courtroom staring them eyeball to eyeball as they are sentenced to hopefully hell. I mean, yes, I want my son home. I want to be able to lay my son to rest. I want closure for my grandkids. I want closure for his entire family and his friends. His family being his blood family, not a I'm doing this for my brother bullshit.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a brother.
And people, and I know how we've talked, I know how you feel about opinions, but I want everybody to understand that if you can just, I know why you feel the way you feel, and everybody in our camp knows why you feel that way. But this isn't just because I hate to use the term because I know how you feel, but this isn't because you hate her because you hate her. You feel the way you feel because of something that you personally feel inside as a mom, correct?
She's an evil, she is the spawn of Satan, plain and simple. She's the most vile, evil thing I've ever laid eyes on. And it's the worst mistake Chris ever made to marry that thing.
And speaking, and just so people understand, we want to talk about some of the games that she's played. And I'm not going to bring up, I'm not going to have, I wouldn't bring Chris's children on the podcast even if they wanted to. But I want to bring something up because this goes to character, and you can explain this better so people understand. The games that she has played, for example, telling Chris's son that she sold Chris's bike. Now, everybody told me that bike was supposed to go to him.
Yep.
And there was a conversation, I think it was last year, a year and a half ago, where she spoke to him. He said, he told her how he felt, and she told him, quote, I sold the bike.
I sold the bike.
So, these are things, so, and then we're told that she has the bike, she doesn't have the bike, she has the bike. So, these are the games that she's played with people. So, when people want to understand why, oh, you just got it out for her, it's a vendetta. There's more to this that we're going to get into that I'm, in the podcast that we have gone into in the podcast. There's more to this than it's not a vendetta. Everything points at her for how she treats people. And is it a character flaw?
Yeah.
Who cares if it's a character flaw? It's how she plays people, and it isn't fair to anybody.
It's not fair to anybody. I mean, I feel sorry for the people that are around her now having to do her bidding, I guess, because she's going to have somebody else do the dirty work so she can stay pure. Whatever.
Two more questions, and I want to touch on the vigil, and this started I guess a dividing line between teams, and this all happened at the same time. There was the information that we got that we kept to ourselves about a possible location on Chris, and we kept Karen and some other people out of the loop. Again, that wasn't personal, that was a decision. And then there was this vigil that they were holding, a prayer vigil. Everybody knew where you stood on this, even before a vigil was mentioned. Could you tell the listeners what your position was on a prayer vigil and when you wanted to hold one, so that they understand better, as the mom?
Yeah. I mean, to me, the prayer vigil was Chris is gone. Until I have Chris or his remains, we're not doing a prayer vigil. We're not doing anything. We'll have a celebration of life if it comes to that point. And, I mean, and 97% of me says it's going to be recovery, but there's still that 3% in my mama heart that he's going to come busting through my door. But don't take it upon yourself to disrespect me, the mama, because she knew exactly where I stood, yet she chose to throw it in my face anyway. And the people that know me know I believe in prayer, and do your prayer vigil. I'm not going to be there. I even asked her if the wife is going to know she's not going to be there. She was there. And I think she really wanted me to show up just to see what would go down. Well, I'm not playing her little games. I don't play games. I mean business.
A prayer vigil, I understand the process and why people do that. But your take on it was, if you're going to do that, that's saying that that's it, he's gone,
you know, and you, in the way, we're not there yet because we're still looking for him. And so your point of view was it would be senseless to have a prayer vigil for Chris because he's still out there somewhere. Whether alive or not, he's out there somewhere.
Right.
And that was something that you stated long before this thing started with the prayer vigil. And what I took offense, and I'll be honest, when I had a problem with it was because, again, you're his mom, and I've tried to be objective where it came to Angela, but as the years have gone by and as the thing, as we've gone on, I find it hard not to, even if she didn't do anything, the way she's behaved and acted, she shouldn't have the right to say what happens or doesn't happen, because she treated him like crap while he was alive, and she's trying to erase him because he's not here. So I thought that the prayer vigil, I thought people should have respected your wishes because you're his.
Most people do.
Right. And I think that the prayer vigil, people were just going to do what they wanted to do because it felt like an attention grab or a power grab. And
I might get to be on TV.
Yeah. And instead of, why couldn't all those people for the prayer vigil go out and do a search instead of a prayer vigil?
Or hang some flyers, or make some phone calls, or stop by and say, is there anything I can help y'all do? Or
and that was the big that was the big thing. I think, you know, why a lot of us, including myself, got angry at the prayer vigil. We didn't think it. If you want to organize something, let's be proactive and organize something to find him. You know, everybody posts. People post about remembering him all the time. His picture is on my desktop. You know, everybody does things to remember him, but why not take the energy and go find him? That would have been more productive. You know, and I know how you feel, and we've discussed it over and over again ad nauseum. The final question I have, and I think people would and if we can get people to help, is, we've said this before, we'll say it again, in 6 years, there has been no lead law enforcement agency. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what Karen says or her husband says. There has not been one lead agency to take the lead and to find Chris's case. For example, Monahan's does not have an open case, and when Chief Quintana was Captain Quintana, he famously said, well, we're going to continue to look for Chris Sanders, but they're not even looking. Like, they're not go ahead.
They've never done the first search.
Correct. And to Breeding, Agent Breeding, Ranger Breeding, he's done some things, but again, he's not the official. He has not said the Chris Sanders case is his. So my question is, what can we do as a group? What would you like to see so that we can get Chris's case actually investigated by a law enforcement company, and not company, but a law enforcement agency?
I guess blow my hands up and demand that they request the FBI to come in, because they won't come in unless it's a child, unless they're invited in. Or assign an officer, whether it be a police officer, a ranger, assign someone to missing persons. No, matter of fact, we need a task force in the state of Texas. We need a task force for the United States, because this is a freaking epidemic. There's not a handbook, and the families shouldn't be having to do what we're doing. So if people could reach out to blow Quintana's phone, blow whoever's phone up. But I really think the FBI needs to come in. There again, they won't until Captain, Chief, whatever the hell he is, Quintana, invite them in. Write letters.
Yeah, I agree. I think everybody listening, watching this, should blow up Monaghan's PD, blow up the Texas Department of, or the Public Safety Department, where the Rangers are out of, and yell, scream, kick, whatever it takes to get, them to
attention drawn to Chris's case.
Right, and we don't need alligator tears. We don't need prayer vigils. Not speaking for you, of course, but I'm just speaking in my opinion. We need people on the ground, grid searching, dog houses, outhouses, bunk houses, looking for Chris. Because, and that's from Monaghan's all the way up I-20, all the way up to where he lived, to any city that he could have gone to. But it all tracks with when he went missing, because I don't believe it was Sunday morning. I believe it was late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. And we also know we have the eyewitness who saw several cars, believes he saw Chris, swears up and down he saw Chris. All these people can be talked to and interviewed, but none of them have. So it's time to, as they used to say, as my father says, shit or get off the pot. But
exactly
what we can tell people that we, myself, and our people that you're associated with, we're not going to stop looking. And we have plans to kind of do some things that we're not going to talk about. We talked earlier today on the phone about, but we're going to keep that to ourselves. But we have plans, and we're not going to stop. But people need to understand one thing, and I'll let you touch on this, and we'll get out of here. But this isn't personal. It's personal that you need to find your son. But this isn't a territorial pissing match. This isn't a game. We're not trying to monetize off hurt emotional people that have a missing person out there somewhere. We are trying to do something that law enforcement and his wife haven't done, and that is bring him home. And if he was murdered, then those people need to be sought out and put under a jail.
Yeah. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. Shit or get off the pot.
Yes, ma'am.
Quit slapping your mouth. I mean, not you.
Yes, ma'am. I know. Well, there are people out there that think that's all I do, and I don't help anybody.
Well,
but
they don't know you like we do, and I thank God every day that He placed you in my life. You're my adopted son, and you're stuck with me for the rest of my life anyway.
Yes, ma'am. And I've told you that I let everybody know that you're my adopted mom, and even though this was a terrible situation for us to meet, I am grateful that I'm in your life, and I will never, ever, ever stop running my mouth in the search for your son. I'll never stop digging. So to let everybody know, and Sandy is listening to this right now, I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing. And it's been called a market. I was told it was a market. This isn't a market. This is real life, looking for a missing person. We have asked questions. We demand answers. Sandy deserves answers, and we're not going to stop until we get those answers. And that's how this is going to. That's how we're going to find Chris. And if that means people are going to eat each other and sell each other out, then that's what it's going to take, because we're not going to stop until Chris Sanders is home and the people responsible are locked away.
Amen.
Sandy, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. I'm sure everybody is going to really love the interview, and thank you so very much for talking with us.
Thank you, Steve.
I tell you what, that was a powerful interview. I think it's one of the best interviews we've had, and I don't care what side of the fence you're on, you know, whether you think you hold a monopoly on Chris Sanders, his memory, his case. There's only one person that really holds that, and that's Sandy. She's his fucking mom. She raised him. She carried him for 9 months, birthed him, raised him, nurtured him. She has the monopoly. She's next of kin. I knew Chris 30 years and he was my... Who cares? Who cares? She's the one that's in pain. Her pain to me is all that matters. Yes, I'm not going to disagree that, you know, there's not other people hurt by his disappearance. But if you're hurt by his disappearance and you're not letting the facts of the case, or not letting, you know, look at some of the things that might be ugly about it, the grim truth about Sandy is she has the pain, she has the hurt, she has the sadness that nothing's getting done to bring her son home. Her son. And anybody out there that has the arrogance to believe that you come before that, you're sadly mistaken. You can claim that in the name of Jesus you're doing righteousness, but really all you are is a false prophet. All you are is you're just a hanger-on for attention. I don't have to drink the Kool-Aid. I'm talking to the people that know, you know? And it's quite obvious who don't really want the truth to come out, because you're bucking it. You're fighting it. At this point, she's the only one that matters. She's always been the only one that mattered. And when you hide, when you tell half-truths, when you don't tell the whole story, you're only fooling yourself and everybody sees it. The grim truth is Karen Knuckles Phillips has just become a fascist propagandist to dismiss anything that I say or we say over here. And it's just a bait and switch. Oh, look, squirrel. Because at the end of the day, it's all about finding Chris. So basically what I'm saying is, shut the fuck up. Let whoever's speaking about him speak. If he's your friend, you wouldn't care who speaks or how they speak as long as he's found. Right, Karen? And that's what we're going to do. Just want to let you guys know the reward for Chris Sanders is up $20,000. Now listen to me very carefully. $20,000 for information on finding Chris. Not third-party information, not half-assed information, not something we've already heard. That $20,000 is for bringing Chris home. And when I mean bring Chris home, that means where he is, recovering where he is, bringing him home, making sure he's at rest, at peace properly, and then finding the individuals responsible and making sure that they seek justice. And that's what we're going to do. And quite honestly, everybody needs to take a polygraph. Everybody. And to those who don't know how a polygraph is going to be paid for, guess what? There is a third-party individual not related to Chris's case who was willing to do all polygraphs for free. That's right, folks, for free. So if you're involved in Chris's case and you would like to take a polygraph to clear your name, email me at stevestone@thegrimtruth.com. That's stevestone@thegrimtruth.com. Hey, we'll be happy to oblige you. As a matter of fact, you can also reach us at 813-738-2442. That's 813-738-2442. Again, Chris Sanders, missing 6 years. Deserves to be found, deserves to be laid to rest, and the godless heathens responsible for Chris's disappearance need to be held accountable. And that's that. Thank you so much for listening, and maybe you enjoyed listening to Sandy. I know I enjoyed interviewing her. And again, it's time to bring Chris home. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, comment down below, like, share, and we'll always be a voice for Chris and a voice for the voiceless in search of the truth. I'm Steve Stone, and this has been the Grim Truth Podcast.